Chat, we're back. Hello. Chat, we're back. And you can probably already tell what we're going to be watching next. I have had, let me tell you, the amount of people on my first B. Dylan Hollis video, the amount of people on my first B. Dylan Hollis video that have told me, that have asked, can you make a part 2? Can you make a part 2? Please make a part 2. Is wonderful to see, honestly, because I love Dylan. I love Dylan. He's a joy to watch. So you know what? Yeah. Let's do a part 2 right now. How's that sound? Because I realized, and somebody pointed this out to me as well. Somebody pointed this out to me on YouTube as well. Dylan's YouTube channel has a couple of longer form videos where he does a couple of recipes, like actually goes through them in full. So yeah, we're gonna start there. We're gonna start there because I'm very excited. I love Dylan. He's such a joy to watch. He really is.
Peanut butter. I think I speak a great truth when I say that we collectively adore peanut butter insofar as we're not deathly allergic. In which case, I hope that you don't adore peanut butter because that would be very sad. A case of the forbidden fruit. I just so happen to be a big fan of peanut butter also. You know, I think it's actually one of the greatest things ever invented. If there's ever an excuse for me to put peanut butter in something or on something or around something, you can be sure that Dylan Hollis is going to do it. And it was precisely this love for peanut butter which inspired me to bake a 1932 Great Depression recipe on peanut butter bread. I uploaded this TikTok in late January of 2022, baking the peanut butter bread, and it has now almost 23 million views, which is insane.
It's way more than that now.
It will soon become my most viewed TikTok. Which
it's such a simple recipe, but it's so fucking good.
It's not a particularly quirky recipe. It's from the Great Depression, which means it's not very interesting nor elaborate in regards to its ingredients. In fact, it's quite the opposite, but it does highlight a firm belief of mine, and that is good baked goods do not need to be complicated or fancy. Too often on social media do we see crazy recipes for things like brownies that take 48 hours to make, or a 100-hour chocolate cake, or the best French macarons free of all imperfections. And it doesn't need to be the case. Sometimes we just want recipes which are simple, easy, devoid of skill, can be made with things in your kitchen, and taste incredible. So that is precisely
You're preaching to the choir, Dylan.
Here today.
You're preaching to the choir here, Dylan.
Depression 1932 peanut butter bread recipe that I did on my TikTok. We're going to be visiting a 1945 iteration, and then finally we're going to be baking a recipe of my own. I will say this again, what I love the most about this recipe is just how dead easy it is. I can tell you a door hinge could make this. If you add all of these ingredients into one bowl, mix it up a little, and bake it, you're gonna end up with some bread. And some good bread at that. Please do pardon my kitchen. It's not the most glamorous thing you've ever seen, but it is utilitarian if nothing else. Now, the recipe begins with 2 cups of flour. Ideally, you should be spooning your flour into your cup and then, you know, leveling it off. But ask me if I ever do that. Next up, we have 4 teaspoons of baking powder, and it's customary for me to refer to leavening agents as floofers. It's just my thing. So this would be floof powder.
Floof powder!
I'm not sure as to why this bread requires so much baking powder. It'd be interesting to hear you guys' opinions on that. Of course, this bread does not contain any eggs, so that could play a part. A lot of people thought that
I love how in the original TikTok he just said we want the bread to rise, not generate thrust. On this episode of Bread Goes to Space. It gets me every time.
It's this much baking powder to let it rise, but I can't say that peanut butter is that much more dense than regular butter. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, I think butter has more fat than peanut butter. Next in is a mere 1/4 cup of sugar, which I did not almost forget.
Which I did not almost forget.
A pinch of salt, that was a ½ teaspoon, and then we'll whisk this in to disperse the leavening. Why does it look and feel so strange to whisk with your non-dominant hand? Looks like I don't know what I'm doing. I mean, I don't know what I'm doing, but still. Moving to the wet ingredients, we'll be using 1 1/3 cup of milk. I think it's important to note that I use whole milk. I think anything less is preposterous. Let's now have a chat about this recipe's feature presentation of peanut butter. Why is it used, how it's used, and what makes this a Great Depression recipe? Peanut butter has a few advantages over regular butter, especially considering the times of the Great Depression, mainly being the fact that this was shelf
stable.
Butter
Yeah.
was a prized ingredient that could be used in many things. You'd be wanting to use it for dinners and feeding your family nutritional food. Nothing as superfluous as a dessert or a quick bread. This was made even more important if you were living within the hard-hit cities during the Depression, where dairy and fresh produce were extremely coveted. So not only did peanut butter act 100%. As the necessary fat within your quick bread, meaning you could save your butter for dinner, but it also imparted a flavor component at the same time. Two birds with one stone. When speaking about this stuff, however, I must tell you that I am no historian nor food historian. I have a music degree and I make videos on TikTok. If you're properly interested in learning more about food history, I have a few contemporaries of mine here on YouTube who are a lot more knowledgeable than I, mainly Glenn from Glenn and Friends Cooking and Max Miller from Tasting History. I will link them below.
Ooh,
Glenn is actually a
okay.
huge inspiration of mine.
I should check them out. Hello?
He's done months, if
I should
not
check those
years
out.
prior to me. All the while, he actually teaches his viewers and doesn't just yell. This recipe calls for a half cup of peanut butter,
Doesn't
so
just
measure that
yell.
out as best you can. Use whatever brand you'd like, of course. I'm just using Peter Pan because it's one of the first peanut butter brands that came to the market. Mix it all up. And then we turn this into a buttered and floured or an oiled loaf tin. Now, by no means do you have to score this like this with a knife. I just do it because quick breads always have a tendency to split down the center, and I just like to give it a helping hand. This here bakes at 325 degrees Fahrenheit for about an hour and 10 minutes, though I would start checking it around an hour with a toothpick. If it comes out clean, it's done. Friends, I reckon we have a done peanut butter bread here. Mine took an hour and 10 minutes on the dot. Of course, your baking times will vary depending on your altitude, but it smells good. Now, I like to let mine cool in the pan until the point where I can grasp it without burning myself, but then I turn it out and then put it on a cooling rack, and voila. Can't rightly say it's the prettiest looking thing. It's a bit rustic, but boy does it smell good. But does it taste good? Well, yes, that's why I've made this video.
Oh, it's so simple, yet, my God.
Yeah, to me, that's just quite brilliant.
Yeah.
It's got the right amount of sweetness.
Nice,
It's got a perfect note of peanut butter. It is one of my favorite breads. However, the distinction is in the name. It is a bread. It's something on which to put butter or jam. It's not a cake. You know, we have been spoiled with breads like banana bread, which over the years have gotten really quite sweet and really more so of a dessert. And that's not the case with this. With that being said, it doesn't have to be like that. I am all for full-blown peanut butter sweetness. So let's take a look at another recipe, shall we?
Hell yeah.
Alrighty then, day 2 and peanut butter bread number 2. This time we're going back to the year 1945, where King George was still on the throne and Harry Truman was the President of the United States. The peanut butter bread recipe in question comes from this cookbook. It's the Household Magazine Searchlight Recipe Book, published in Topeka, Kansas in '45. It was sent in by a viewer of mine, so thank you most kindly. This is fast becoming one of my favorite cookbooks because the Household Searchlight sort of acted as one of America's first test kitchens, where it would gather good, famous recipes from around the United States. They would test them at the Household Searchlight and then release this book through the household magazines to the masses. And this book doesn't just deal in the currency of desserts. It concerns everything from beverages to cheeses to candies to pastries to poetry. Of course, our concern today is peanut butter bread. So on page 48 of this cookbook, under the miscellaneous tabs of the bread section, is the peanut butter bread recipe. And just at a quick glance, you will notice that it shares quite a lot of similarities with our first recipe, namely the same amount of flour and baking powder. However, there are some alterations. It doesn't only double the salt, it doubles the sugar as well. It slightly cuts back on the milk and adds a tad more peanut butter. It also carries with it more specificity in regards to the method. We will be working with our hands with this one, but more pressing and more importantly is it cuts the baking time in half by baking this loaf at 420 degrees Fahrenheit. So let's get started.
Interesting.
And see what 1945 has to offer. Just as we've done before, we start with 2 cups of flour, 4 teaspoons of baking powder, add a full teaspoon of salt, and then we sift. Now, I normally don't sift my flour or my dry ingredients like this, but I'm doing this just because it's asked me. Next up is our 2/3 of a cup of peanut butter, and I'll be using the same brand just to keep it even. Now our new 1/2 cup of sugar. The jacket's coming off. After you wash your hands, in you go. Ooh, interesting. That's our texture. Ooh. We're just working this in like pie pastry, I suppose. It does actually manage to hold its shape quite well.
Yeah, I was about to say, that's the same technique you make pie dough with.
Lightly but thoroughly. It's still quite a stiff batter. In you go. I have noticed that you do want to press these into the pan because they don't move rightly enough. Let's see what 420 for half an hour does to this thing. So it has been 30 minutes, and as you can see, it looks rather brown. I don't reckon it needs the other 5. But it does. So
interesting.
It has been 35 minutes, and regardless of whether or not a toothpick comes out clean, I am just going to pull this and let it fend for itself. So here we are, bread number 2. With the higher temperature and the higher sugar content, you can see we've got quite a nice brown.
I was about to say, that's very brown.
The smells of it may be a little bit too brown.
Oh dear.
The interior, however, is fine. All right.
Interesting.
You know, I quite like that. The browning and the crust poses no issue at all to taste. In fact, it's a really nice textural change. It does not taste as dry as it looks, but still, I'm not sold at the 420 degrees thing. The added sweetness and the extra peanut butter is certainly the way to go. We are no longer in the Great Depression. No, in fact, it's a few days later in 2022, and today we'll be making, and I'll be giving you, my peanut butter bread recipe.
Here we go.
My eyebrows are a bit calmer today, too. They're always a bit angsty on day one, aren't they? Now, when I set out to create this recipe, my goal was simple. I wanted to make a peanut butter bread which was as full of peanut butter flavor as possible. I wanted it to be a bit more dessert-like to satisfy those with a sweet tooth, such as myself. And unlike the 2 previous loaves, I wanted it to be
I have a bit of a sweet tooth myself, honestly.
Of banana bread. And if you've happened to notice what's behind my shoulder, you may be able to tell that it's proving to be an immensely difficult task, at times absolutely Sisyphean. I don't possess the ego to deny that it's taken me no less than 7 loaves, 7 experiments to find a peanut butter bread that I'm proud of.
Oh my
Dylan, you
God.
say 7 failed attempts. How hard can it be? Just add more peanut butter, do this, do that. Well, it's not that simple. I'm still a bit manic, sorry. Because the same qualities which made peanut butter great to bake with in the Great Depression, namely being the fact that it acted as both the fat and the flavor, makes it immensely difficult when it comes to wanting to add more flavor. Because then you're adding more fat. And when you add more fat, you need to account for that with more dry ingredients, different leavening, different combinations of wet ingredients. And you just keep making a larger and larger loaf to account for the added fat, and it ends up being the same amount of flavor. It is vexing. Even when I did vary the baking times, or the baking temperatures, or the leavening agents, adding more peanut butter flavor by adding more peanut butter either caused the loaf to collapse or fail to rise completely. And when I did manage to stabilize a loaf, it had the same mouthfeel as a mouthful of peanut butter. That is, it isn't dry, but it feels dry. Complicating things was the fact that how the peanut butter was added played a very important role. For example, here is a loaf where 1 cup of peanut butter was added to the flour, like we did in the 1945 recipe with your fingies. It had the most beautiful peanut butter taste, but it failed to rise. And here is another loaf with the exact same ingredients, baked in the exact same way, except the peanut butter was added with the wet ingredients, like you would in any other baking recipe. It rose beautifully, but the peanut butter taste was gone. Absolutely deactivated. I was so confused. Also, I found peanut extracts and peanut butter flavorings to be absolutely disgusting. I reckoned that powdered peanut butter would be the answer to my woes, but it ends up causing quite a burnt or bitter taste when baked, and I was not pleased. But I did end up perfecting it. I cracked the code. I found what I was looking for.
Let's
and I created
go.
Something which I adore. I think you will too, and it's for peanut butter lovers everywhere. So let's get to baking. After I freeze these, of course. That's my breakfast and afternoon tea for 6 months. My recipe, like all others before it, starts with 2 level cups of all-purpose flour. Into which goes 1 full teaspoon of salt. Now, if you're using a fine-grained salt and not a coarse kosher salt like I'm using here, do consider only using half a teaspoon. But the salt is important because the flavor of peanut butter, as we know it, is married to saltiness.
It is.
So this helps bring out that peanut butter.
Salt helps amplify a lot of flavors, honestly.
Now, I know that seems a drastic difference from the previous 2 loaves, which had 4 teaspoons, but around that range, baking powder can actually impart a taste of its own unto baked goods, and that's something we want to avoid with a sweet loaf such as this. Give this a whisk up. Now, for the peanut butter, we'll be using an entire cup, and you can use any brand you want. I've been testing all of these with Jif because it's my favorite. And I know what you're thinking. Can I use chunky peanut butter? And of course you can. It just imparts more of a roasty flavor to your bread, so if you kind of like that, go ahead. The only peanut butters which don't work with this are the natural or the organic peanut butters, those which don't contain emulsifiers. Any brand like Jif or Peter Pan or Skippy, the shelf-stable ones, will work with this just fine.
That's
now
what I
comes
thought,
the magic part, combining the peanut butter and the dry ingredients with your fingertips. I'm telling you, this is the secret. It's what keeps the peanut butter flavor in the bread through baking.
Interesting.
It amplifies the flavor, and I couldn't tell you why, but perhaps somebody here can tell
Oh
me what's going on.
Hold on. I want you to know, Chef, I just ate a Wendy's fry in a Frosty. What's the verdict? I gotta know. What's the verdict? What do you think?
And feeling like damp sand, then you're done. Now, my choice of wet ingredients are quite different from the other recipes, but you'll have to trust me on this one.
Okay.
I do still use milk, whole milk, make sure it's at room temperature, but I do add an egg. It's important to lift up and create rise with all of that peanut butter.
It's fine. I don't usually do it, but it's fine. Nice.
Into said egg. No, but the major difference here is applesauce.
What?
Applesauce. I find it acts not only as a complementary flavor to our peanut butter, but it adds the moisture that we need that doesn't dry out through baking, and it also acts as the acid component for our baking soda, which accounts for the lack of baking powder, and I think creates a better, more stable rise. So, into a separate bowl, there was 1 egg at room temperature.
1
adding to
eggy.
it 3/4 of a cup of white sugar. Then we beat these two together with a whisk until light and fluffy. That is good by me. Next in is our applesauce, and I call for 1 cup. And we're switching to a spatula now to incorporate this, plus a 1/2 cup of milk. Now this next step is crucial and things need to happen quite fast. So make sure you have your oven already preheated to 350 degrees Fahrenheit and you have a greased loaf tin at the ready. Into the wet ingredients goes 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda. Briefly mix that in and then quickly add the wet ingredients to the jar.
Interesting.
And we combine this just barely. That's all it needs and into the pan. You'll notice that this batter is quite loose and that's okay. And then into a 350 degree Fahrenheit oven for around 1 hour to 1 hour and 10 minutes. Now I suppose the conversation might eventually move to, can I put anything in it? And the answer is yes. I'm quite sure that this quick bread would hold a cup of nuts, a cup of chalky chips, anything you could think of really. The only thing that doesn't work well with this, strangely enough, are things like spices or vanilla extract. Of course, vanilla extract is in everything, so you think it would work in this,
You think
but
it would?
Doesn't.
Okay.
It steals away some of the flavor from the peanut butter and it doesn't add much at all. Same thing with spices like cinnamon or nutmeg.
Cinnamon!
Concentrations of
He's ruined that word for me.
It becomes overpowering.
He's ruined that word for me. I swear to God, Chad.
Has proven to be one of the most difficult things.
I made his recipe for my family. It's fantastic. I need to try this now.
This took 1 hour precisely.
I need to try this.
Is let this rest on a cooling rack for a little bit, and then we'll turn it out. Gentles and ladymen, here she is, our peanut butter bread. You know, considering the last few days, you have no idea how glad I am to see this risen bread. The exterior is a nice golden deep brown.
God, that looks incredible!
And that's just because of the added sugar, the added
wow,
and the baking soda actually helps it brown as well. The cracks are good and typical for a quick bread, which is baked properly, and then the chunkiness that you see on top is just because of the way in which we mixed in the peanut butter. Through the crust is a beautiful interior with a breadcrumb, and it should be nice and moist. Alrighty. Hello there.
Whoa.
The peanut butter flavor is front and center. It has a lovely chewiness to it. Again, it's got a great amount of moisture in there. You might ask, can you taste the applesauce? Yes, you can. Again, it's complementary to the peanut butter.
I was about to say, it shouldn't overpower at all.
For moisture. I'm quite proud of this. I mean, it's only taken me 7 tries. Oh, it's really good. This one definitely stands more on its own. It's more of a dessert to be had with afternoon tea by itself. Whereas the other ones, you know, you put butter on it. Maybe you put peanut butter on it or jam. It was meant to be an ancillary part of the meal. And the great thing about these is that you can pick whatever you want. 1945. Interesting. And then, of course, you have mine, which I'm partial to because it's mine. Through all of this, I've learned a lot, but the main thing is that I've learned I still love peanut butter. And if you do too, go ahead and bake some bread. So
I need to try his recipe. That looks so good. I need to try his recipe, like, desperately. Perfect, because that's exactly what I wanted to see next.
Gentles and ladymen, hello! I'm B. Dylan Hollis, and today we're going to be speaking about the TikTok famous chocolate potato cake.
Yeah, this one.
1912. In March of this year, I uploaded this TikTok about said chocolate potato cake, and it's seemingly gone viral, which blows my mind like nothing else. As of filming, it's got over 20 million views. And I figured now that I'm on YouTube and we're not restricted by 60 seconds, and I no longer need to yell constantly, take the time
no longer need to yell constantly.
Now, folks, often ask me where I get my recipes from, and the fact of the matter is that I just collect vintage things, and cookbooks are one of those things. This is one of my favorite from the 40s, for example. It's called Recipes for Good Eating by the Crisco Corporation with the tagline, "It's digestible."
It's digestible.
So I needn't make these things up. Recipes in old print are just about as horrible and horrific as your imagination will let you believe they can be. So that's really all I need, and I find them from antique stores. Every now and then I'll bring them in from eBay. But regarding the chocolate potato cake, I sourced this recipe from a 1912 cookbook. I have 2 iterations of this here cookbook. One stays in the kitchen, and one is my good version, and that good version is of a new book of cookery from Fanny Merritt Farmer, which I find quite funny because where I'm from, Fanny is... Fanny is quite a funny word, quite a rude word.
Oh dear.
That's the reason why I picked it up to begin with, because I'm a grown child.
Crisco, we don't know what it is either.
The recipe for the chocolate potato cake, but the astute among you will instantly see that it does not say chocolate potato cake.
Instinctive, Vepas. Thank you so much for the follow. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Welcome.
At the end of the recipe's instructions, you'll see that it says, remove from pan and cover with fudge frosting. And there isn't any caramel to speak of in the recipe, the ingredients, or the instructions. It's all chocolate. And that fudge frosting on page...
Crisco is used for lampposts in Philly, I believe. Yeah, no kidding. They're gonna need that tomorrow.
Instead of naming it caramel potato cake, I took the liberty to sort of correct the typo. It of course begins with the hallmark ingredient of the potato, calling for half a cup of hot riced potatoes. Doesn't tell you what type of potato to use. I use the russet. And one medium russet comes out to roughly half a cup. And if you have a ricer, use it. I just use a masher. Previous recipes in this book explicitly state when to peel the potato. In the absence of that, I leave the skins on, as I said in the TikTok. So the only thing there is that you just need to make sure it's really, really clean. So we're going to begin by chopping this up in a medium dice and just throwing it right into a pot of water without anything. Now, if it wasn't already obvious, I'm not a cook. I'm not a baker. I'm a college student who happened to have stumbled into some TikTok fame by doing old perky recipes. I never expected there to be one that tasted good. I set out to this because who expects potato in a cake to be good? So, yeah, I don't have the production value. My kitchen is set up, luckily, for vertical videos. So I only bring this up because on YouTube there's so many people who are so good at cooking, using fancy cameras and all of that stuff. I just sit here and yell. Anyway, we've got that russet potato on the burner, on the hob, and we're going to move on to the butter. Now, the cream.
Fanny, I think, is a word that's evidence of someone maliciously drifting language. Oh dear.
A step that the importance need not be overstated. You see a lot of recipes say, don't over-mix your batter, and that's true, but not for this stage. You can't overdo this at all. Well, I suppose you can if you mix for so long that you melt the bloody thing. Now, for clarity's sake, whipping the butter first and then gradually adding the sugar, as the recipe says, is best practice. The way I did it, by just adding all the sugar in at once, it's a lot less efficient. It takes a lot longer for me to cream the butter. As a side effect, the potatoes are almost done, but what you're looking for here is a pale white, creamy, fluffy texture to your butter. It should have increased in volume. This took me about 13 minutes. It will take you a lot less time if you use a stand mixer, but at which point we can begin adding the eggies. These are our 2 eggs, which have already been beaten, which we're going to add to this creamed butter sugar mixture very gradually. We now have our butter, sugar, and eggs incorporated. Okay, so in go our potatoes to a bowl to mash up. Of course, if you have a ricer, you can go ahead and use a ricer. We're going to just mash these up loosely, not too much. A ricer is good, and mashing these up a lot, without skins especially, is good if you really like a homogeneous cake. I'm more one for the texture here. And texture plays
it's honestly a very different texture.
Now,
mashing versus like putting it through a ricer.
Half a cup of milk here before adding it to our batter.
It refers to the oh, really?
The batter by heating it up too much.
Did not know that. Okay.
And milk into the batter. To a separate bowl, we add our 1 level cup of flour and 2 teaspoons of baking powder.
Floof powder.
The spice situation to be added to this mixture calls for cinnamon, cloves, and nutmeg.
Cinnamon.
I used a half teaspoon of each, as the recipe
Malicious
says.
drift. Gotcha. Okay. Understood.
Significantly
Understood.
this cake. date this dish. A half teaspoon of ground cloves is quite a significant, strong.
It's a lot. That's a strong flavor profile. Yeah.
Like fresh or good quality ground cloves.
That's a strong flavor profile.
That could be a substitution.
Holy moly!
Cloves and just add a full teaspoon of cinnamon, or maybe even a bit more. And people might be mad that I don't say synonym.
Synonym. There it is. There it is. Let's go.
Use a whisk or use a fork. Then we add this mixture into our batter. Now this is the fun part. Unlike a lot of recipes which call for powdered cocoa or melted chocolate, this recipe explicitly calls for half cup of grated chocolate. I'm here just using the 56% cacao bar, also known as semi-sweet, the Baker's brand. I'm just popping it in here so I can best gauge half a cup. But I think it really offers some cool textural differences to the batter to the cake. That really stands out and sets it apart and makes it really good in my opinion. And you'll see, when it comes out of the oven, it does not resemble any other chocolate cake. It's not brown or dark. Instead, it kind of elicits the image of banana bread. I'm gonna call it there. That's about half cup. That's about left in the full bar remaining. Don't grate this down too much or else you'll have some finger in your cake.
Oh dear.
With this done, we pop this into our batter and we begin mixing. Now this is the stage where you do not want to over mix. If anything, it's okay to see a little bit of streaks of flour running through here, but over mixing the batter with all of the flour in it means you can really activate that gluten, and it leads to quite a dense, thick, with 3 C's cake.
Thick with 3 C's.
Add in your optional half cup of chopped nut.
One might even say thick with a Q.
I did pop these in my TikTok video. I just didn't mention it. You know, when we only have 60 seconds, you can only fit so much in. I'm going to be turning this into a buttered and floured 8-inch square. But you can use whatever you want so long as it's equivalent. Just level this.
Each C stands for CC.
A moderate oven for just under an hour.
With a
moderate oven is just.
Oh my god, Yash, I love that. That emote's so good. Holy shit.
That is a done chocolate potato cake. As a word of warning, this only took 50 minutes in my oven at 350. And that's even at an altitude of 7,200 feet here in Wyoming. The recipe says 55 minutes. I suggest that you gauge it and watch it like a hawk. And use the importance of toothpicks in the center. When she comes out clean, you're good. Okay, whilst that cools, we're going to move on to the fudge frosting, which is brilliantly simple and full of flavor for the small amount of ingredients it has. In this small saucepan, we've got already a...
That is the most adorable saucepan! Wait, that's so tiny!
Ooh. I'm just using salted because salt is good when you have a lot of sweet stuff. And that is on the back of a whole cup of sugar. And I'm not going to spill anything, Mr. Hollis, am I? No. And then it says... That's an adorable saucepan. What the fuck? To use 1 square of unsweetened chocolate. Now, that doesn't mean anything because I don't know how big Miss Fanny Farmer's chocolate squares were. That sounds quite rude. So we're just going to use the remainder of the full 56% cacao bar that we utilized for the shavings. So it comes out to about this much. That just goes right on there. Again, this is the chocolate that I'm using. Then you just pop this on the range and let things boil for about 15 minutes, after which you take it off and add in your vanilla. Now, the recipe dictates to add things sequentially and let things like the butter come to temperature first before adding the remaining ingredients. I've made this recipe now about 5 times and I've not noticed any difference between doing it that way versus all together, but do as you wish. Okay, our frosting has been off the heat now for a bit. We're gonna add some vanilla and whisk it in the pot for a little while. I think I want it a bit thicker. Oh boy.
Oh, damn.
I don't think I want it any thicker than that because I like to pour it on. Yeah.
Oh.
Now you could let this cool down more, or you could cut into it while it's still warm. Now you can really see how unique a texture this is. It almost looks like banana bread, and that's from the unmelted chocolate and the potato skins. You know, not only is this the best thing I've baked on TikTok, it's one of the best things I've baked ever. Perhaps the
I have a stovetop pot about that volume. I think is this cuter though. It's so cute. It's adorable.
I suggest you try it. Anyway, before I eat this
He's cute.
Let me know if you guys enjoyed this. Like I say, I'm a TikToker. I am not a YouTuber. So let me know if you want to see more of these investigations into my past recipes, the good ones.
Non-existent AV, thank you so much for the follow. I totally almost missed that follow. Thank you so much, though. Appreciate it. Thank you, thank you.
Elsewise,
welcome.
have a good day.
Screenshot that. I need to screenshot that. I'm definitely going to screenshot that. Oh, man. Ah! So good. So good. Good Lord Almighty. I am glad, honestly, that I wish Dylan did more of these longer form videos. I really do. I wish Dylan did more of these longer form videos. I love his shorts content. I love his TikTok content, but like these, I feel that the longer form videos, excuse me, suit him. I feel like they suit him quite a bit.
A Jell-O poke cake from '79. So there's two crazy things about this cake. One being, well, it's a cake with Jell-O set inside of it. Second being, it's found in my new cookbook, Baking Yesteryear, coming out this July.
Let's go!
What? Yeah, this is not a joke. This is a.
I need to pre-order this.
You could pre-order. Start with 3/4 of a cup of vegetable oil, 1.5 cups of sugar.
Yes.
I know what I'm doing. I have a cookbook. 2.25 cups of flour, pinch of salt, teaspoon of floof powder. Then we alternate mixing dry to wet with a cup of mood juice. Done. Then into a 9x13, 3/5.
I desperately need to pre-order his cookbook. Oh my god.
Boiling water.
Yo, chat.
So
Are you kidding me?
Both of these have cooled down, so now we stab. But you never stab the cake. Here you go. In the fridge. Good morning. Top with whipped cream. Whoa, that's a darn good cake. A Jell-O poke cake from '79.
Chat, I'm so excited.
Cake. One being, well, it's a cake with Jell-O set inside of it. Second being, it's found in my new cookbook.
Look at that! Look at that! He's got a freaking cookbook now. Let's go. When is this dropping again? Hold on.
Baking Yesteryear, coming out this July. Everywhere books are sold.
July. Mark your calendars, chat. Mark your fucking calendars. Let's go. It drops in July. I need to pre-order this. Oh my god. Yo. Chat, you realize this. You realize what has to happen now, right? I need to get his cookbook. I need to get this cookbook, and I desperately need to bake some recipes and show them off because, yo, we let him cook, and look what happened. Bruh. Oh, my God. I am ecstatic. Oh, my God. I will be upset if Mel... Okay, honestly, chat. I'm going to be... I agree with you, Happy Main. I need milk to be written as moo juice. I need baking powder and baking soda to be written either as floof powder and floof soda. And cinnamon, see, these fucking ruined the word for me. Cinnamon has to be written in all caps as cinnamon. Oh my god. Oh my god. Kingfisher, what's up, buddy? How you doing? What's up? Did you see the announcement? Because Warlock, good timing, by the way. Warlock was the one who messaged this to me, and it's just like, B. Dylan Hollis has a cookbook coming out, and I'm just like, oh my god, what the fuck? I'm so excited. I'm so excited. Also, Antisocial Profess, thank you so much for the follow. I do appreciate it. Thank you, thank you. Y'all, there's so many of y'all. So many of y'all today. Thank y'all so much. Yeah, Kingfisher! Dude, hold on. Wait a minute. I'm opening up the pre-order page now. There it is. Kingfisher. Baking Yesteryear. It drops this July. Pre-orders are open now. I need to get my hands on this. I need to get my hands on this for obvious reasons. Good God. Yo. Oh, I'm excited. I'm very excited. Guess I'll be making his recipes while playing Pikmin 4. Exactly. Yes. Oh, I'm also excited for Pikmin 4, by the way. Holy shit. Assuming you still won't be playing Tears of the Kingdom. That too! Oh my God, you're right! There's so many games coming out. My God. My wallet is also going to cry. Warlock, Jesus Christ. My wallet is also going to cry. Good God Almighty.
Lard nuts from 1909.
Now, what?
In my line of work, chances are you handle a great deal of nuts. It simply comes with the territory, and it's a great perk. However, lard nuts do not sound appealing. They sound contagious. Start with 4 cups of flour, mixed with 1 cup of sugar, plus 5 teaspoons of nutmeg.
Whoa!
Spicy. Put the nut in lard nuts. Now there's this on the fork. You know, they invented a tool for that. It's called a whisk. Next, we rub in a half pound of lard with the hands.
Oh God.
I hate this. 3 eggs beaten. Put them up. Mixed in again with the hands. Lady loves her digits. Now we roll to balls. So if you're not sure what a nut is, you're too young. They can be made with a stiff sliced dough, usually finished.
Dylan!
Which is how most of us 300 until brown.
Jesus!
They taste a bit like mothballs or like an old handkerchief. Lard nuts from 1909.
If you don't know what a nut is, you're too young. For the love of God. If your nuts turn brown from handling, you should be concerned. I agree. I agree.
Peanut butter onions from the Great Depression.
What?
Like kissing women, stuffing onions full of peanut butter feels rather unnatural to me, but I suppose desperate times call for desperate measures. Start by French revolutioning our onions. Now you can use
French revolutioning.
the round ones, the only type I can find.
Oh
We
my
need to
God.
create a flat bottom. Let me get some reference. Perfect. Time to scoop out the middle. Ooh, boy, this onion's strong. The military grade. God damn. Woo. Okay, now that we have a hole in our onion and we look like we've just come from a wake, we need to stuff it. For that, we need a 1/4 cup of peanut butter, mixed with half as much breadcrumbs.
What?
I suppose it is called the Great Depression for a reason. You know,
Oh,
I don't
no.
typically stuff vegetables. Mix. Much prefer stuffing fruit. Do we really just We do. $3.75 for an hour.
Oh boy.
A presentable dish.
What the
Take
fuck?
a face down for radio. Closed casket funeral.
Subtle.
It's not so much bad as it is unsettling. Simply just no need to do any of this.
That
Peanut
is.
butter onions from the Great Depression.
I realize it's the Great Depression, but still, my God. Oh boy, more Dylan, you're just in time, explosive ramen noodles. A face not even a mother could love. Exactly. My God.
Boiled cookies from 1953.
Excuse?
Now these were called boiled cookies because you boiled the ingredients. The 50s was a time of blossoming creativity. Today they are known as no-bakes, which is also the drug testing policy of anyone employed by the government. First up,
True. Nice
You
save.
all call this a frying pan or a skillet? I call it.
I call it
In goes a
Steve.
half cup of butter. 2 cups of sugar. Calories don't count on Christmas. Half a cup of moon juice. Yes, you can put liquid in dry measures. Volume doesn't change. Fight me. 3 tablespoons of potted cocoa. Now we bring this to the boil and then let it boil for precisely 1 minute. Fire! You've never been there, have you? New positions are fun. It's boiling. Beep. Done! Now we remove from heat and quickly add in a cup of peanut butter, a bit of vanilla, and 3 cups of quick oats. Then mix. Scoop onto wax paper and let them dry.
Interesting.
They are firm. Judging by how they smell, I might be too.
Dylan! God damn it!
Whoa, man. They're like candy. Good cookie. Boiled cookies from
Richie said they're called no bakes, which is the testing policy for anyone employed by the government. He also said something that utterly slayed me. Hold on.
1953. Now, these were called boiled cookies because you boiled the ingredients. The 50s was a time of
Hold on a
blossoming
minute.
creativity. Today, they are known as no-bakes, which is also the drug testing policy of anyone employed by the government. First up, we need a skillet. You all call this a frying pan or a skillet? I call it Steve.
I call it Steve.
It goes a half cup of butter, 2 cups of sugar. Calories don't count on Christmas. Half a cup of moon juice. Yes, you can put liquid in dry measures. Volume doesn't change.
Fight me.
3 tablespoons of potted cocoa. Now we bring this to the boil and then let it boil for precisely 1 minute. Fire! You've never been there, have you? New positions are fun. It's boiling. Beep. Done! Now we remove from heat and quickly add in a cup of peanut butter, a bit of vanilla, and 3 cups of quick oats. Then mix, scoop onto wax paper and let them dry. They are firm, judging by how they smell, I might be.
They are firm, judging by how they smell. I might be too. Dylan, for the love of God. That's what I thought he said. That's what I thought he said. Mother of God. Excuse me. Is that okay? Has he added? You know what? It's over. It's over to TikTok now, chat. It's over to TikTok now. It's over to TikTok now. All right. I'm going to take one more very quick break before we return to the wonderful, wonderful insanity that is B. Dylan Hollis. I will be right back, y'all.